Hello everyone. I am Eric from Invensis Learning and I welcome you to our YouTube channel. So, according to the report created by the World Economic Forum, the product owner is one of the most emerging jobs in the product development domain. To help you ace your interviews, we have brought you a very interesting session on product owner interview questions. To make it easier for you guys, I have categorized the questions. So, here's the agenda. We will start with theory-based basic level and advanced level questions. Post that we will go through scenario-based product owner interview questions. Through these questions, you will learn how the product owner will or should react when posed with real-world product scenarios. Let's get started, shall we? The first set of questions are based on Agile methodology. Here's the first question. What do you expect from this job as a product owner? Most of the time, instead of directly jumping to theory questions, the interviewer often wants to know how much of an expert you are in their field. There is no specific answer to this question. Each answer will differ depending on the industry, company, and products. However, you should mention a few keywords such as sprint, product backlog, grooming, retrospective, and others. Doing so will prove you have the relevant knowledge and experience. Now, based on your answer, a lot of theory-based questions may be fired your way. What is Scrum? Can it be applied to all types of projects? Scrum is a lightweight Agile framework for developing, delivering, and sustaining complex products. It works by breaking down large products and services into small pieces that can be completed by a cross-functional team in a short time frame. Can it be applied to all types of projects? This is a very good interview question. By asking this question, the interviewer is verifying if you have a clear understanding of Waterfall and Agile. So, the answer is no. With Scrum, unlike Waterfall model, the main focus is on collaborative development. Risk is reduced because you are getting feedback early and customers are happy because they can make changes without paying exorbitant costs. Minimize risk in response to frequent changes. You receive a high return of investment. You can roll back the changes when needed. Moving to the next question, are you aware of any other Agile frameworks? Scrum is not the only framework that helps teams become Agile. When posed with such a question, you can name other Agile frameworks such as Kanban, test-driven development, feature-driven development, extreme programming, Crystal, lean software development. The next question is, what is a user story? What is the structure of a good user story? As a product owner, it is really important for you to know what exactly is a user story. A user story is a tool that captures an informal and general explanation of a software feature written from the perspective of the end user. It basically is an informal description of user requirements, spoken in plain English. A key component of Agile software development is putting people first, and a user story puts end users at the center of the conversation. A user story basically involves three things: a persona, an action, and a benefit. Here are some examples of a possible user story. As a marketing data analyst, I need to run the Salesforce and Google Analytics reports so that I can build the monthly media campaign plans. As a credit card holder, I want to view my statement balance, so that I can pay the balance due. As a frequent flyer, I want to rebook a past trip so that I can save time booking trips I take often. What exactly is acceptance criteria in a user story? Who sets it? In Agile, acceptance criteria refers to a set of predefined requirements that must be met in order to mark a user story complete. You should know that a product owner or a product manager is responsible for writing acceptance criteria for the stories in your product backlog, or at least facilitating the discussion about it. The best time to write acceptance criteria would during backlog grooming sessions. An acceptance criteria has various formats, a common one being given, when, and then. Let's take an example. Suppose a user story goes like this. As a shop visitor, I want to collect books in my shopping basket, so that I can purchase multiple books at once. The acceptance criteria for that user story could be: Scenario 1, the same book can be added multiple times to the shopping basket. Given my shopping basket contains one copy of Wuthering Heights, when I add the book Wuthering Heights to my shopping basket, then my shopping basket should contain 2 copies of Wuthering Heights. So, that's one scenario. You can add multiple such scenarios. I recommend that you read about different other formats for acceptance criteria. The next question is, what exactly is a product? Don't you think as a product owner you should know what a product is, and more importantly you should know how to explain it to others? So, a product is simply any item, or service, or even an idea that can be offered to a market to satisfy a customer's need or want. This definition might seem simple, but there is a lot more to a product than its at first glance attributes, and what the customer thinks they are paying for. A product can be something physical like a table. It can be a digital product, such as Microsoft Office, an ebook, or streaming videos. It also can be a service like consulting on how to adopt Agile. Also, a product can even just be an idea. For example, a patentable algorithm or the secret to getting more likes on Facebook. Is there a difference between Agile and Scrum? If yes, what is the difference? This is a very common question that you will come across in the Scrum interviews. On the surface, it is easy to see why Agile and Scrum can often be confused, as they both rely on an iterative process, frequent client interaction, and collaborative decision-making. So, what's the difference? A straightforward answer to this question would be, to say Agile is more of a philosophy that takes an incremental and iterative approach towards the completion of a project, while Scrum is a specific Agile framework with its own unique features. Apart from Scrum, there are other frameworks that are used to implement the Agile philosophy. What is Scrum Sprint? What is the ideal duration for a sprint? This is a very common question that you should be aware of. Scrum works by breaking down large products and services into small pieces that can be completed by a cross-functional team in a short time frame. These short time frames or cycles are called sprints. The sprint is a time box of 1 month or less during which the team produces a potentially shippable product increment. Sprints have consistent durations throughout a development cycle, and a new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. The duration of the sprint in Scrum depends on the complexity of the project and the size of the team working on it. Usually, it's anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to almost a month. You just mentioned that a sprint is a time-boxed event. What exactly is time-boxing in the Scrum framework? Time-boxing is basically allotting a fixed unit of time for an activity. Incorporating a time-boxed approach brings in discipline, predictability, and creates a situation for inspect and adapt. Every event in Scrum is time-boxed and cannot be extended unless absolutely necessary. Is the product owner part of the Scrum team? This is a very basic question which proves your fundamental knowledge of the Scrum framework. So, yes, the product owner is part of the Scrum team and is responsible for maximizing the value of the product developed by the Scrum team. However, how this is accomplished may vary widely across organizations, Scrum teams, and individuals. Apart from product owner, define the other roles in Scrum. There are 3 roles defined in the Scrum framework, which are the Scrum Master, the product owner, and the development team. The people who fulfill these roles work together closely, on a daily basis, to ensure the smooth flow of information and the quick resolution of issues. Product owner. The product owner defines what the product will look like and what features it should contain. He or she keeps track of the project's stakeholders' expectations, defines and gathers the required tools and resources that the Scrum team needs. Scrum Master. Scrum Master is the coach and the gatekeeper of the Scrum team. In simple terms, he or she helps the Scrum team perform at their highest level. Scrum Master does this by ensuring that everyone in the team understands Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values. Development team. The development team consists of professionals who do the hands-on work of developing and testing the product put forth by the product owner. This team tends to be made up of several members that are cross-disciplinary, including engineers, designers, architects, and testers. Let's look at the next question now. Can you name some of the metrics used by the Scrum team to measure the work done? Metrics that help to measure the work done by Scrum teams include sprint goal success, escape defects, defect density, team velocity, sprint burndown, time to market, ROI, capital redeployment, customer satisfaction, and many others. Moving on, what does the term velocity mean in Scrum? Velocity is a metric used to measure the amount of work completed by a team during a sprint. The number is obtained by adding all the story points from the last sprint stories. Please remember that velocity is not a measure of effectiveness, efficiency, competency, or anything else. It is merely a measure of the rate at which a given amount of problem statements are turned into tested software. What are the different artifacts that are used during the Scrum process? Scrum defines 3 artifacts. The Scrum artifacts are designed to maximize the transparency of key information so that everybody has the same understanding of the artifact. There are 3 Scrum artifacts. Product backlog. Firstly, we have a product backlog. The product backlog is an ordered list of everything that is known to be needed in the product. It is created by the product owner with the help of the development team and the Scrum Master. Sprint backlog. The sprint backlog is the collection of product backlog items that the team commits to achieve in a given sprint. In simple terms, it is a subset of the product backlog that the team intends to complete in a sprint. Product increment. Product increment is the sum of all the product backlog items completed during a sprint and the value of the increments of all previous sprints. Basically, it is a step towards a vision or a goal. What is discussed during the sprint planning meeting? During sprint planning, the entire Scrum team collaborates and discusses the work to be performed in the sprint. The Scrum Master ensures that the event takes place and that attendants understand its purpose. To be precise, in this meeting you and your team try to answer 3 questions, which are: why is this sprint valuable? What can be delivered in this sprint? How to achieve that work? By the end of sprint planning, you will have the sprint goal, the product backlog items selected for the sprint, plus the plan for delivering them. These 3 things together are referred to as the sprint backlog. The 16th question is: how would you characterize your role as product owner? Can you explain the responsibilities of a product owner in detail? This is an open-ended question better to understand the candidate's perception of their role. A product owner is a leadership role, yielding no authority in a traditional management sense. A product owner is an individual responsible for maximizing the product's value created by the development team. He or she transforms the high-level product vision developed by the product managers into detailed user stories or requirements. The most important tasks of a product owner include formulating project goals and effectively planning work activities, developing and managing the product backlog effectively, overseeing the product development at various stages, acting as a liaison between the client and the product development team, balancing the scope, time, and budget constraints, ensure transparency into the upcoming work of the product development team, communicating with stakeholders. Most importantly, you should remember that the product owner is one person, not a committee. You just mentioned effective product backlog management as one of the responsibilities of the product owner. So, what exactly are the characteristics of a good product backlog item? Good product backlogs share similar characteristics, which Mike Cohn and Roman Pichler captured with the acronym DEEP, which refers to detailed appropriately, emergent, estimated, prioritized. Let me explain what these terms mean. Detailed appropriately, the product backlog items will always differ in their level of detail. For example, the items that we plan to work on soon should be near the top of the backlog, small in size, and very detailed. Whereas the items that we won't work on for some time should be toward the bottom of the backlog, larger in size, and less detailed. That's what we mean by detailed appropriately. Next up, the backlog should be emergent. That is, as long as there's a product being developed or maintained, the product backlog is never complete or frozen. Instead, it is continuously updated based on the emerging requirements. The next factor is that each product backlog item should have a size estimate corresponding to the effort required to develop that item. Lastly, all the items in the product backlog should be prioritized. Moving on to the next question. What is the product roadmap? And, what is your approach to creating product roadmaps? A product roadmap is simply a high-level visual summary, which maps out the vision and direction of your product offering over time. It basically communicates the why and what behind what you're building. Ideally, your product roadmap should convey the strategic direction for your product. You would consider a top-down approach, starting with the company goals and the general product vision. It should clearly articulate the product vision, strategy, and ensure that everyone is working toward a common goal. Now, you have a vision and you know how to measure your progress towards it. The next step is to have an initiative. An initiative is a high-level description of a problem you want to solve, something you want to build. It's still not detailed enough for your delivery teams to execute on, but it gives them a better idea of what they're building. Is there a difference between a product owner and a product manager? If yes, how do these two roles differ? There is a fine line between a product manager and a product owner role, and it depends on how the role is crystallized in the company's structure and culture. Let's discuss the subtle differences between these two roles. The product manager is mainly responsible for setting up the high-level product vision and coming up with a product strategy. On the other hand, the product owner is responsible for helping the development team to execute the high-level vision shared by the product manager. Product managers have a profound knowledge of the product, the market, and customers. On the flip side, the product owner is considered a lifeline of the product, and is directly involved with its development. It is because they analyze the product from a customer's perspective. The product manager outlines what the product success looks like, whereas the product owner outlines the path and resources required to achieve the success. The product manager provides cross-functional leadership. They work closely with sales, support, marketing, and engineering to deliver the best product experience. Whereas, the product owner works closely with internal stakeholders such as QA staff, UI, UX, designers, and the operations team. The product manager creates a product roadmap that outlines the vision, direction, priorities, and other things. But the product owner works closely with the product owner when required to review the product roadmap and make sure the priorities are aligned properly. By this point, we have a clear distinction between a product owner and a product manager's responsibilities. Often the responsibilities can shift a little when teams undergo a transformation. Can you list down some of the most popular product prioritization techniques that would be used as a product owner? In product management, prioritization is a very important and challenging aspect. The reality of building products is that you can never get everything done, priorities shift, resources are reallocated, funding is scarce. As a product manager or a product owner, it's your job to make sure you're working on the most important things first. That is, you need to prioritize your features, and there are many ways to do so. Some of them are the Moscow method, RICE scoring, Kano model, opportunity scoring, weighted scoring prioritization, and ICE scoring model. There are many others. You should be careful to choose the right framework based on your prioritization requirements. What are the skills that you think a product owner should possess? The product owner role is quite a demanding one, and you should have certain key skills to lead your team towards success. A few of them are: great communication skills. It is highly important for the product owner to possess good communication skills that can adapt to different teams and personality types. Commitment. The product owner should be committed to the project, vision, team, and business. Gumption. Product owners bridge the gap between stakeholders and the team. Often what stakeholders want can be at odds with what the team believes can be done within scope. The product owner should have the ability to say no to stakeholders if their desires are out of reach, which takes a lot of courage. Conflict resolver. If you can't handle conflict, you're in the wrong game. With product development, in particular, we're dealing with an inherently conflict-filled situation. Effective escalator. No matter how good you are at resolving a conflict, you'll need to escalate something up the chain of command. By that I mean, you should give feedback to management. That management has deployed conflicting goals. Storyteller. As a product owner, you should be able to communicate your vision, and think about what will transform that story into a product feature that delights the user. Domain knowledge. Speaking of market analysis, the number one skill a product owner must have is domain expertise. Whether it's an EMR or finance software, product owners are the subject matter experts for that tool's domain. The product owner is an important role in the Scrum team, and these are some of the skills that a product owner should possess. The next question goes like this. Can you specify the features that a good user story should have? A good user story includes a description, has acceptance criteria defined, can be delivered within a single sprint, has all UI deliverables available, has all probable dependencies identified, has performance criteria defined, has tracking criteria defined, and is estimated by the Scrum team. Apart from planning, review, and retrospective, do you know of any other event in Scrum? Yes, there is one more event called product backlog refinement, sometimes referred to as product backlog grooming as well. During a product backlog refinement meeting, the team, Scrum Master, and product owner discuss the top items on the product backlog. It is a meeting that is held near the end of one sprint to ensure the backlog is ready for the next sprint. Apart from that, the team is given a chance to ask the questions that would normally arise during sprint planning, such as: what should we do if the user enters invalid data here? Are all users allowed to access this part of the system? And other sort of questions. Next up, we have a question that says what happens during a sprint review. A sprint review is held at the end of the sprint to inspect the product increment and update the product backlog if needed. During the sprint review, the Scrum team and stakeholders collaborate about what was done in the sprint and plan for the next sprint goal. Based on the feedback, they update the product backlog as needed. So, the result of the sprint review is a revised product backlog that defines the probable product backlog items for the next sprint. During the sprint review, the team does research on the marketplaces and estimates the budget, potential capabilities, timeline, and marketplaces for the upcoming releases. Note that sprint review doesn't have a fixed time frame. It lasts at most for 4 hours for a 1-month sprint, or can be shorter for shorter sprints. What are some drawbacks of Scrum? Obviously, every framework or methodology has both disadvantages and advantages. The Scrum methodology is no exception. First of all, adopting the Scrum framework in large teams is challenging. The framework can be successful only with experienced team members. It can be difficult to scale an Agile or Scrum approach to large, complex projects. Often, daily meetings sometimes frustrate team members. If any team member leaves in the middle of a project, it can have a huge negative impact on the project. Most of the time there is uncertainty regarding the product. Frequent changes and frequent product delivery remains during the Scrum cycle. There are no deadlines for delivering products. This often leads to long discussions between the product owner or Scrum Master and the project manager, as project managers keep demanding new functionality. What do you think should be the ideal size of a Scrum team? This is a very basic question. The Scrum Guide suggests having between 3 and 9 team members who are actually executing the sprint backlog. That means you wouldn't include the product owner or Scrum Master in the total unless either of them is implementing the sprint backlog items. So, the ideal size for development is between 3 and 9 people, not including the Scrum Master and product owner. Any smaller and the team couldn't accomplish enough each sprint. Any larger, the communication becomes complex and cumbersome. The next question is, can you name some of the popular tools used by the product owner? The product owner role is full of creativity, interesting challenges, collaboration, and an endless flow of information. Therefore, it is important for you to know which tools to use to increase efficiency, work with teams and satisfy your clients. There are a wide variety of tools for different purposes available in the market to make product development and management a lot easier. The top product owner tools are Roadmug, Product Plan, Jira, Confluence, Balsamiq, Amplitude, and many others. To know more about these tools, you can refer to Top 10 Product Owner Tools on our YouTube channel. Moving on to the next question. When is the best time to use Agile methodology? Is it suitable for all situations? This is a very good interview question. By asking this question, the interviewer is verifying if you have a clear understanding of Waterfall and Agile. So, there are certain scenarios where Agile works really well. For example, you are working on complex and bigger projects. Have unclear requirements/deliverables. Have to quickly launch the product to market. The cost of change is minimal. Emphasis on teamwork, transparency, and continuous improvement. There is no limit on time and budget. There are frequent changes throughout the development cycle. When you don't need to deliver fully functional software at once. Clients don't have a fixed budget/schedule. As you can see, Agile is more suited for small to medium-sized organizations than it is for corporations. The reason is simple: the fewer people there are, the easier it is to make a decision and respond to change. At the end of the day, you need to evaluate the workflow, processes, and structure of your collaborating teams, the budget that you have, and timelines to determine if either Waterfall, Agile, or a hybrid works best for you. Have you heard of Scrum? If yes, can you please explain what it is? As you might know, Scrum is best for product and development projects, whereas Kanban is best for production support. Scrum is a hybrid Agile framework that combines important features of these two popular Agile methodologies. Which are Scrum and Kanban? It was initially created as a way to transition from Scrum to Kanban. By extracting the best of both frameworks, Scrum and teams are more flexible in their ability to adapt to changes as they arise. The next question is, mention some cases where using Scrum is not suggested. There are certain cases when Scrum might not be your best choice because it will either be very hard to make it work or it provides very little value. For example, when the requirements are not allowed to evolve. When the organization is not ready to adopt Agile values and practices. When frequently needing to respond quicker than a sprint allows. When people have had bad experiences with Scrum already. When looking for a one-stop solution to all our problems. What is a sprint burndown chart? Apart from the 3 artifacts that we discussed in the previous questions, there is another one called the sprint burndown chart. It is a graphical way of showing how much work is remaining in the sprint, typically in terms of task hours. A sprint burndown chart is not an official Scrum artifact, but many teams use it. They use it to communicate and track progress toward the sprint goal during the sprint. It is typically updated during the daily Scrum meeting. Can a person be a product owner for multiple products? Best practices dictate that there should always be one product owner to one Scrum board and project. The product owner usually focuses on the given product by constantly being in touch with the customers and understanding the market. Therefore, aligning a product owner for multiple projects will impact the quality of deliverables, and it will also affect the individual playing the role of a product owner. The focus of the product owner gets divided, and the time also gets broken down between different projects, which in turn creates a mess for the product owner. Therefore, it is not advisable to align one product owner with multiple projects, as it also affects the strategy and timeline for the project. As a product owner, how are you going to increase the value of the development team's work? As a product owner, it's your core responsibility to increase the value of work done by the development team. But the question is how to achieve that. You can increase the value the team delivers through different strategies, like by Continuously interacting with your team members. Investing time in teaching the development team about the domain, helping them understand the business and how it works. Taking out time to explain the vision for the product and the organization. Making the team understand the value that is being delivered at the story level. By doing so, you will not only encourage the team and help them own the product, but it also helps the overall business. How would a product owner deal with uncooperative stakeholders? The best way to deal with uncooperative stakeholders is to win their confidence by engaging them through regular meetings and discussions and demonstrating the value of Agile product development. While each individual has a different way of dealing with these bumps, in the end, product owners must always be diplomatic. The product owner should demonstrate the value of Agile product development and continue discussions. If all else fails, they should seek help from the sponsors. Could the same person be a product owner and a Scrum Master? No. Product owner and Scrum Master are two separate roles, and mixing them can have a very negative effect on the development process. Both these roles require 100% commitment and involvement. Often, the Scrum Master might need to act as a mediator between the development team and the product owner when their goals start to diverge. In such a scenario, if the same person is acting as both, there will be a conflict of interest. Your development team is repeatedly failing to fulfill the sprint commitment. As a product owner, what will you do? As a product owner, it is highly important to understand the reason behind the failure of the development team to complete the sprint commitment. The reasons for the failure can be plenty, such as it might be because of incorrect estimation or overcommitment. Or, it might be because of a lack of trust and collaboration in the team. Might be because of the team not understanding the user story and interpreting it differently. You need to continuously keep track of the progress of the development team and identify which of these reasons are responsible for the failure of the team. Based on this reason, the product owner needs to work with the development team and Scrum Master to find the solution. During a sprint review, the development team demos new functionality you've never seen before. How would you react? Ideally, this wouldn't happen because the product owner and the Scrum Master always attend the daily Scrum meetings and monitor the health of the sprint. In case the scenario occurs, then the requirement should be discussed, reviewed, and taken up for discussion in sprint retrospective meetings to understand the root cause and fix the issue. In other words, the entire Scrum team needs to take a call on whether to keep the functionality as it is or discard it and come back to what was agreed at the beginning of the sprint. The next question is, how will you know that Agile practices are working for your organization? Are there any indicators to figure this out? There is no standard definition of the term Agile success. Every organization must develop its own criteria to evaluate if Agile adoption was a success or not. However, here are some general indicators that might be helpful. The products you deliver are resulting in higher customer retention rates, upsells, and more customer acquisition. When team members are extremely happy and there is an increase in the number of referrals from team members. Stakeholders are increasingly participating in events, for example during the sprint review. Increased software quality can be demonstrated by measurably less technical debt, fewer bugs, and less time spent on maintenance. Lead time, from validated idea to shipped product, has been reduced. Another common question that might come across is, are you certified? If yes, why did you choose that particular certification? Don't be fooled if you're not qualified, and they ask you this question. No need to panic. Inform the interviewer if or not you intend to take the certification in the future. If you are already certified, do let the interviewer know your reasons for choosing that particular certification. Actually, some believe in certification, others less so, but either way it's a helpful way for interviewers to get to know your background. Earning a relevant product certification opens up new possibilities and can increase your paycheck. At Invensis Learning, we offer instructor-led live online certification training for different product owner certifications such as Certified Scrum Product Owner, Professional Scrum Product Owner, and Agile Scrum Product Owner. Through these programs, you will learn to think in terms of Scrum values and principles and learn how to help your Scrum team perform at the optimum level. They will also accelerate your journey in pursuing a career in Scrum and other product-related job roles. Moving on, according to you, what justifies canceling a sprint? This is a very general question for which you need to answer very carefully. The right answer would be that a cancellation only occurs when there's a drastic change in priorities. For example, if some critical requirements with high priority are suddenly marked as a low priority, there would be no point in continuing further. Most importantly, the product owner can only make a call to cancel the sprint. Though, they do not have absolute power to go ahead and cancel. What would happen if the product owner no longer has control over the product backlog? Such product owner interview questions are asked to see how well the owner of the product understands his or her role. Not only that, this question shows how you would handle adversities in the job. The truth is the owner of the product should have absolute control over the backlog. It's their responsibility to ensure the backlog is healthy and up to date. If the product owner has no control, then the team will not get the right direction on what is to be developed. They will not understand the vision and goals of the product. The backlog will look like a bunch of random things thrown together. Even it will impact the customers very hard, as they will not get what they expected. Therefore, it's highly imperative for a product owner to have confidence when it comes to the product backlog. Did you face a situation where you had to say no to a stakeholder? How did you approach this situation, and what was the reason for it? Well, this again here is a question that you can answer based on your own experience. As you know, being able to say no is one of the important skills that a product owner must have. For example, let's say there is a pet project with a doubtful value that the stakeholder wants you to work on. As a product owner, it's your responsibility to protect your team from this. If you are saying that you'll never have the team work on this feature, don't leave the door open to encourage the stakeholder to ask again later. If on the other hand, you're telling the customer no for now, and that later you might work on that feature, then be clear about that as well. Also, when saying no, it's best for product owners to provide one compelling reason rather than a list of reasons. Product owners create value by shipping the right product and maximizing the amount of work deliberately not done. Because of that, the organization has to respect a no from them. Let's check out the next question. What labels come to your mind when you think of your role as product owner? By asking this question, the interviewer is just trying to figure out your opinion about the product owner role. In simple terms, you can just mention some key characteristics that pop out in your mind when you think of a product owner. Such as great communication skills, CEO of the product visionary, strategic thinker, innovator, storyteller, customer delighter, knowledge broker, conflict resolver, systems thinker, servant leader without authority, entrepreneur/intrapreneur, and many others. Who do you consider to be the most important product stakeholder? And how do you deal with them? As a product owner, it is important for you to know who you are targeting. From the beginning of the project till the very end, the product owner interacts with various stakeholders including customers, sponsors, key decision makers, professionals, and regulators. A potential product owner will know what key role each of these stakeholders plays in the process, and how to handle their requests. The first step is to figure out how each stakeholder contributes to the process. Then, you can manage the requests of various stakeholders by coordinating and collaborating with them through discussion while designing a product roadmap. Seeking their input and feedback in designing and defining product backlog items, and preparation of sprint events. A consistent and constant collaboration will always help. How would you update your team about the product and the market situation? The answer to this question determines the candidate's ability to communicate that knowledge successfully. One of the primary responsibilities of a product owner is to make sure the team is aware of market situations and realign the PB accordingly. To do so, as a product owner, you should have a great deal of market knowledge and top-notch communication skills to communicate the appropriate marketplace knowledge to the Scrum team. Generally, marketplace knowledge is communicated through informal interactions. However, organizing planned meetings and having formal discussions, such as daily stand-up, is also a great way of explaining current market trends to the Scrum team. The next question is, as a product owner, what roles would you deem necessary for a cross-functional Scrum team delivering software? A cross-functional team is a team in which the members have different skill sets, but are all working towards a common goal. They're like superhero team-ups, where different individuals with different sets of unique abilities will work together for one common purpose. Typical roles in cross-functional teams are business or data analysts, UX and UI designers, developers, front-end, back-end, QA developers, and probably DevOps engineers. Cross-functional teams are growing in popularity because of an increased demand from customers to provide a consistently personalized, high-touch customer experience. In what events do you think the product owner should be participating? And why? Product owners are expected to participate in the events, daily scrums, sprint planning, sprint review, and sprint retrospectives. If not, the product owner will not be able to answer possible questions quickly. He or she won't be able to solve the impediments in a timely fashion, which would contradict the core of being agile. Therefore, it is suggested that the product owner attend every event. The next question can be something like this. We have a product that we are planning to rework on. Once you become a product owner here, how would you redesign the product? As a product owner, the first step in redesigning or designing a product is to build a strategic roadmap. As an answer to this question, you can give a brief outline of the steps that they can take. First, you need to understand what exactly needs to be improved in the product. This can happen through internal and external communication with customers, engineers, the customer support team, and other stakeholders. Once your team is on the same page, technical product owners can start working with the engineering teams to develop unique features that add value to the users. Finally, the entire process is guided by the product owner. List some of the popular Agile tools that you are familiar with. Some of the Agile tools and especially product management tools that you can mention are Jira, Rally Software, N-Task, Version 1, Balsamiq, Confluence, and many others. Folks, if you want to know more about other product development and management tools, you can take a look at our top 10 product owner tools on Invensis Learning YouTube channel. The last question of this session is, in the Scrum team, who is responsible for measuring the project's performance? The answer is the product owner. You as why? Well, being the customer's voice, it is the product owner's responsibility to measure the projects and release performance and see if the team is on track to complete the project on time. So guys, these are some of the most frequently asked interview questions and answers for product owner and product manager jobs. Before heading for a job, you should prefer to go through such kind of interview questions and prepare well. Are you planning to get a product owner certification? We can help. At Invensis Learning, we provide Scrum Alliance accredited certified Scrum product owner training worldwide. Enroll now and take the next step in your pursuit to master product development and management.